Have you ever wondered if the way you hug a woman could be the difference between feeling like just a friend and being someone she thinks about later? Most men don't realize this, but touch, especially how you hug, is one of the most powerful wordless ways you communicate who you are. And here's the part that matters. You don't need to be younger, taller, or more confident than you already are. You just need to understand what she's reading in that moment, because she is reading it. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 4 specific rules about how to hug a woman in a way that subtly triggers attraction, not manipulation, not tricks, just awareness. The kind that makes her feel safe, noticed, and drawn to you without either of you having to say a word. If this topic resonates with you, comment yes. If not, comment no. I read every comment. And if you find value in what I share here, I'd genuinely appreciate it if you'd like this video or subscribe. It helps me keep making content like this. It helps other men who are navigating the same questions you are. Thank you. All right, let's start with the first rule. Rule 1, initiate with calm certainty. Here's what most men get wrong. They either hesitate too long before going in for a hug, or they ask permission out loud in a way that feels uncertain. Can I give you a hug? Is it okay if I... Now, I'm not saying consent doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But there's a difference between respectful awareness and broadcasting doubt. Women are incredibly attuned to hesitation. According to research from the University of California, Berkeley, people, especially women, make snap judgments about confidence and intent within the first 3 seconds of physical approach. That's faster than you think. So when you're in a moment where a hug feels natural, maybe you're saying goodbye, maybe she just shared something vulnerable, don't second-guess yourself into paralysis. Read the situation. If she's open, facing you, engaged, then move with calm certainty. Not rushed, not aggressive, just clear. Open your arms with gentle confidence. Let her see the invitation before you close the space. That moment of openness signals safety. It says, I'm not taking, I'm offering. And here's what happens in her body when you do this well. Her nervous system registers confidence without threat. That combination is rare. It's what makes a hug feel different with you than with other men. This is more common than you think. A lot of men assume they're too old or too out of practice to create that kind of presence. But presence isn't about age, it's about clarity. Rule 2, match her energy, then lead just slightly. This one's subtle, but it matters. When you first make contact, arms around her shoulders or mid-back, depending on context, don't immediately pull her in. Let there be a brief moment where you meet her level of pressure first. If she hugs lightly, you start light. If she leans in, you match that. But here's the key. After that first second of matching, you lead just slightly. You hold a fraction longer. You apply a little more warmth. You become the steady point. Why does this work? A study published in the journal Psychological Science found that physical touch, especially sustained, warm touch, triggers oxytocin release in both people. But the person who holds the secure, grounded presence tends to be perceived as more emotionally stable. And emotional stability, especially in men over 40, is one of the most underrated forms of attraction. Pew Research has consistently found that as women age, they prioritize emotional maturity and stability over almost every other trait. You're not competing with younger men on energy, you're offering something they can't yet: groundedness. So when you hug her, don't rush to let go. Don't pat her back like you're wrapping up a business meeting. Hold the hug for 3 to 5 seconds. Let her feel that you're comfortable in your own skin, that you're not performing. Still with me? Comment 1 if this already makes sense. Rule 3, use your hands intentionally, not randomly. Here's where a lot of men lose the thread. They either keep their hands too stiff, like they're afraid to actually touch her, or they let their hands wander in a way that feels uncertain or, worse, inappropriate. The truth is, where you place your hands during a hug sends a message. If you're hugging a woman you're interested in, not a close friend, not family, your hands should rest on her mid to upper back. Firm, warm, present. Not rubbing, not patting, just there. This communicates respect and intent at the same time. If your hands drop too low too soon, it reads as presumptuous. If they stay too high and barely make contact, it feels distant. There's a middle ground, and you'll know you've found it when the hug feels connected but not invasive. Anthropologist Helen Fisher, who studies attraction and relationships, has noted that touch is one of the primary ways humans assess compatibility. We're wired to notice how someone touches us, whether it feels safe, whether it feels intentional, whether it feels like they're paying attention. So be intentional. Let your hands communicate that you're fully present in this moment with her. Not distracted, not overthinking, just there. If you're finding value so far, let me know in the comments. It helps me understand what resonates with you. Rule 4. End the hug with a soft separation, not an abrupt one. This is the part most men don't think about. They either hold on too long and make it awkward, or they pull away too fast and kill the moment. The right way to end a hug is with a soft, gradual release. As you begin to let go, let your hands slide gently along her back or shoulders for just a moment before fully breaking contact. It's barely perceptible, but she'll feel it. That brief continuation of touch creates what psychologists call a lingering effect. It's the feeling that stays with someone after the physical interaction ends. A study from DePaul University found that people remember how an interaction ended more vividly than how it began. The final moment, the last touch, the last look, is what gets encoded emotionally. So when you release the hug, don't just drop your arms and step back like you're disengaging from a handshake. Let there be a smooth, warm transition. Maybe your hand lingers on her arm for half a second. Maybe you hold eye contact as you step back. This creates continuity. It tells her nervous system that the connection didn't just end, it shifted. And that shift is what keeps you in her mind after you've left. This is more common than you think. A lot of men assume that if they're not naturally smooth or physically expressive, they can't create this kind of moment. But you can. Because it's not about being smooth, it's about being present. Quick check-in. Does this match what you've noticed in your own life? Comment yes or not really. Now let's talk about something that ties all 4 of these rules together. The deeper truth about why hugs matter. Here's what I want you to understand. A hug isn't just physical contact, it's communication. And what you're communicating when you hug a woman with intention is this. I'm comfortable with intimacy. I'm not afraid of closeness. I'm confident enough to be gentle. That combination is rare. Most men either avoid physical touch altogether because they're unsure of themselves, or they lean into it in a way that feels too eager, too hungry. You're looking for the middle path. The one where you're calm, intentional, and fully there. According to research published in the journal Emotion, women are highly sensitive to what's called approach motivation in men, the energy behind why someone is initiating contact. If the motivation feels needy or approval-seeking, it registers as unattractive. If it feels detached or obligatory, it registers as cold. But if it feels grounded and generous, if it feels like you're offering connection rather than taking validation, that's when attraction happens. And here's the part that might surprise you. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to execute every hug flawlessly. What matters more than technique is the energy you bring. Are you present? Are you calm? Are you genuinely interested in her, not just in whether she's interested in you? Because women feel that. I've seen this play out in real life more times than I can count. The man who seems like he'd struggle, the one who's a little older, a little quieter, a little less polished, ends up being the one she remembers, not because he did everything right, but because he was real. And a hug when done with that kind of presence, becomes a moment she feels instead of just experiences. Let me give you a real example. I once worked with a man in his early 60s. He'd been single for a few years after a divorce. He told me he felt invisible to women, like he'd aged out of being noticed. We talked about presence, about how touch, especially something as simple as a hug, could communicate everything he thought he'd lost. A few months later, he told me about a woman he'd met at a community event. They'd talked for a while, and when they said goodbye, he hugged her the way we'd discussed. Calm initiation, warm, intentional contact. A soft, lingering release. She texted him that night. Not because of what he said, because of how he made her feel in that 30-second interaction. That's the power of understanding what's happening beneath the surface. Here's what I want you to take from this. Attraction isn't about being the loudest or the youngest or the most impressive person in the room. It's about being the one who makes her feel safe and seen at the same time. And a hug, done right, does exactly that. It tells her you're confident enough to be close, secure enough to be gentle, present enough to notice her. Those qualities don't fade with age. If anything, they deepen. You have more to offer now than you did at 30. You just have to stop apologizing for where you are and start showing up fully in the moments that matter. What's one thing you've learned about yourself with age? I'd genuinely like to hear. Look, I know these conversations can feel vulnerable, especially when you're navigating attraction and connection later in life. But you're not alone in this. There are thousands of men watching this right now who are asking the same questions you are, who are wondering if they still have what it takes. And the answer is yes, you do. You just need to trust that your presence, your groundedness, is enough. If this spoke to you, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe and share your thoughts below. I read them all. This is the kind of conversation I want to keep having with you. See you in the next one.